Welcome to Mondays with Mr. Notar for the week of March 8th. We do have some things taking place this week, especially for all our winter sports. We have our awards ceremony set up for this week. So just to recap those, swimming, the awards ceremony will be tonight, March 8th at 5:30 p.m. And girls basketball will also be this evening, March 8th at 7 o'clock p.m. Then tomorrow night, March 9th, we will have cheerleading, and that will be at 5:30. And we'll have boys basketball also tomorrow night, and that is at 7 o'clock. And then lastly, on March 11th, we'll finish out the week with our wrestling team and their award ceremony, which is scheduled for 6:30 that evening. So congratulations just to all our winter sports for a great season and getting through all the variations with COVID and having a successful season with all our athletic teams. And also a thank you to Mr. Cray and all the work he puts into our athletic programs and getting things prepared for our students and their parents for their awards this week. It's hard to believe. I know it. We've only been in school a few weeks now, but it is hard to believe it's that time of the year to start scheduling for classes for next school year. So that's going to take place next week, actually a week from today. We will work with both alphabet groups on Monday, March 15th and Tuesday, March 16th. You'll be meeting with the school counselors and myself, getting all the information on looking at classes for next year and starting to get your classes organized and picked out for next school year. Another thing happening next week are our picture retakes. We had a lot of students that were absent the last time we had our school pictures taken. Also, our ATEC kids will have an opportunity to come, and any of our CCP kids and so forth. So next week, March 17th and 18th, depending on your alphabet group, if you took pictures and you didn't like them, or if you were absent, you'll be able to take school pictures that morning, first thing in the morning, we'll call you down. So that's March 17th and 18th next week.
Can I get a shout out?
This week's shout out that I want to give, it's a very neat story. Many of you know Mr. Pike, some of our staff members, and particularly probably a lot of our freshmen because they saw Mr. Pike at the middle school teaching technology over there. But Mr. Pike came last week and sat down with me. He wanted to do a little video for the district, and we sat and talked afterwards, and he shared a story. We kind of exchanged a couple stories, and he shared a story with me that was just absolutely amazing, and I never knew it. And some of you that may not know, Mr. Pike was actually in the Coast Guard. He was a petty officer, 3rd class. And years ago when he was in the Coast Guard, down in North Carolina on Pea Island, they actually had a 911 for a hurricane, and there were a couple people that were stranded on their car during the hurricane. So he and a couple other officers went to, I believe it was like almost a 20-mile trip through the hurricane to try to rescue them. And on their way down there, they had gotten overtaken by the hurricane. And when we talked about it, he just shared how at one point they were on a road, and all of a sudden it looked like their vehicle was just in the middle of an ocean. And they did their survival techniques to him and his 2 partners, and they anchored themselves to the truck, and it eventually tossed and turned a couple times, and they battled severe winds over 100 miles an hour and were stranded out there for a couple hours fighting the storm. And they were, luckily they did the right survival techniques. If not, things could have turned worse and they might have had a worse turnout. But it was just an amazing story. So those of you, if you ever see Mr. Pike, just ask him about him. It was just a very, very inspirational story. And, that's this week's shout out. And I want to thank Mr. Pike and his years of service for our country and what he has done. But the story was very, very inspirational, and it was just very uplifting that day to hear that. So definitely a shout out to Mr. Pike. So when you see him, tell him that as well. And this week, it's time for this week's Joke of the Week. And what's neat is I love to eat outside. I eat at restaurants. I do. I've always enjoyed going to different restaurants. COVID has put a damper into that because of not being able to or being limited. And ever since I was a little kid, I've always enjoyed space and studying space and planets and things of that nature. And I think a lot of kids do. It's just very interesting. So this week's Joke of the Week that I came across actually ties restaurants and outer space together. So this week's joke of the week is, did you hear about the first restaurant that opened on the moon?
No.
It had great food, but no atmosphere. Again, I just want to thank everyone. I hope everyone has a great week this week, and I'll see you next week on Mondays with Mr. Notar.